Conjuring Last Rites is directed by Michael Javes and stars Vera Farmiga, Patrick Wilson, and among others. And this is the fourth film in the Conjuring franchise in which the Warrens have to stop an entity that's haunting them that is also involving this family called the Smurls in 1986. And it also goes into some personal stuff that has to do with their daughter, Judy. Now, here's some backstory. Now, over the years, I've really enjoyed the Conjuring franchise for the longest time. Not going to go into too much detail, but the overall franchise, I feel like, has been hit and miss. There's been some really great ones I've always loved, including the first two movies, and even the decent third one that came out a few years ago. But when it came to the spin-offs for the longest time, they were hit and miss, especially with the first Annabelle and the Nun spin-offs. But with the two Annabelle sequels, I really enjoyed those, and the less said, the better of Curse of Lorna, the better, because I want to pretend that movie doesn't exist. But the overall franchise, I still get excited for because of so many possibilities of what they do and all the cases that the Warrens in this universe have really set themselves up with. And I've just always got a kick out of these movies, seeing what they come up with. And knowing how much I love the first two, it just makes me really curious what they do next with the series. And it makes me do miss the days when James Wan was actually directing these, because I appreciate that they tried to really, follow his footsteps into doing the spin-offs, a lot of things like that. And it does show that they definitely have a lot of respect for the guy with his work. And it's cool to at least see that he stayed on as producer and writing the story for some of these movies. But it does also makes me kind of wish that going into this one, even though I didn't mind the last film, The Devil Made Me Do It, I thought it could have been a lot better. But going into this one, it would have been nice to at least see that James Wan could have came back to direct it as he was as part of the series one last time. But hey, it's for the better. It's for better or worse. At least we got to see it was announced that this is going to be the last one to feature Vera and Patrick coming back one last time as the Warrens. And so if they end up doing any other films in the future, it'll probably just be spin-offs and not really involving the Warrens or anything. So I can definitely see why they wanted to make this as the fitting end. But going into it, I was still very excited for it, even though I kind of feel like it's been at this point where it would have really brought my curiosity more had they would have brought James Wan on board. But I was still definitely interested in what it was going to do with it. And upon seeing it, I can say that I really did enjoy the movie. It may not be there's nowhere near as great as the first two films, but I did feel like there was aspects of it that I did enjoy over the third film, even though there was some aspects as far as on a technical standpoint, I did like in the third one that I kind of had in some parts better than this one, but I still overall think that this was definitely a satisfying finale. And so, to get my pros out of the way, what can I say? Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson, they're outstanding as usual as the Warrens. They really bring a lot of great what we know from these characters, and you can definitely tell that they really love these characters a lot, and the dynamic they always have the love they have for each other throughout the movie. And also the themes that involve with family, with their daughter, and doing what's best for their daughter, who's also engaged and everything, I thought was really a nice touch. And it really, when it's really centered on the Warrens and doing a lot of the stuff that's doing the themes of family, I was really getting into a lot of that stuff because it was very emotional, and it makes you really feel like, it's like seeing a family that you really know like one last time, and just you're really smiling at all the good times that they have. But on the also plus side, on the technical standpoint, it shows, I do give it a lot of credit for the director who's coming from the other films that he's directed, like with the last Conjuring film that he directed, and then also one of the other spin-offs he directed too, I believe, The Nun 2 and all that. He's come a long way from like really showcasing more of what he can do as far as the production design and establishing a lot of great shots like we see like with the tracking shots in the opening, and the atmosphere that it's also set up too, with it being in the house and everything like we see in the other films. It's always great. A lot of the ways that the ghosts are having to haunt everyone and stuff, I thought was very compelling for the most part, even though I'll get into some of my cons with that, because when you get your typical jump scares, it does take the focus out of it like you've seen before. But it is well crafted, especially the way that we set up the actual scares and the way that you're actually going through the house, and learning also some really cool stuff about this entity, because what I appreciate with this time is that it makes it on a very more personal stake that goes back actually from their very first case. So that's something that I think really kind of pulls it all together in like a cool, like all bets are off type of approach, that even on a movie standpoint, so to speak. And so the atmosphere, the production, the cinematography is really great, and then you also have the music, which really captures the 80s very well. Now, if I had to get into some of my cons, we'll have to say that unfortunately, what I do think the movie holds the movie back is that it does feel disjointed in that when we get introduced to the other family involved, the Smurl family themselves, I didn't mind them, but I did feel like they're not quite as compelling than say the other families that we see in the other films, because it seems like there wasn't really like much really going on with the family other than some stuff that they set up with other than just getting the plot going on with the demon and everything. Because even in the other films, there was still some really good characters that I found myself attached to and stuff. And this one, there's not really nothing to write home about because they all really feel like just standard, by the book type of typical family members. And and it also kind of feels very convenient how certain things kind of pull the plots together, especially with how we get involved with how it all takes place and everything. You know what I mean? And so there's more they could have really established with that, because this actually is the longest of the Conjuring franchise, and there's definitely some better writing they could have really established, especially if this trying to be like the big finale that they were going for. On top of that, there is your typical been there, done that with certain scenes that play out with how the jump scares happen, and then you got scenes where some CGI is noticeable on some of the designs of the entity, but I was still able to overcome it after a while because it was something that I did find myself on the edge, and there are some really great scares that happen, especially the more subtle moments that take place. But it does tend to happen where you see a lot of the same type of, the music's building up and everything, and then you don't hear anything, and then all of a sudden the jump scare happens. That is typical, but it's nothing that I really can complain at this point, because that's going to be a common thing. But with that being said, though, despite all that, I still found myself very emotionally attached. And then when it gets to the actual climax, I did feel I was on the edge, and it actually did have a good payoff to it. It may not be as great as the first two films, but I still think that this was a definitely satisfying conclusion with the Warrens. And with that, I'm going to give it a compelling grade on the Film Freaks meter. So, for those of you who have also seen The Conjuring: Last Rites and also the other films in the franchise, let me know in the comments about what you thought about it. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next review. I'll see you later.